Good afternoon. It's Monday, the 28th of November 2016, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Brian Gerrish. With me in the studio, Mike Robinson. Reports from across the country are of sunshine and blue skies, mainly mild, but a bit nippy, I think, north of the border. Or is that a pun? I think that might well be. Brace yourselves.
Yes. Well, it's Theresa May, and she's meeting with the Polish Prime Minister, Beata Szydło, today.
A lovely couple.
A lovely couple indeed, yes. What are they talking about? They're focusing on Brexit, or not, and defence cooperation. So where other ministers are meeting at Lancaster House, Brian. Now, Lancaster House, as we've mentioned many, many times, was the place that the dirty deal was done with the 50-year defence pact with France.
Yep.
It's the place where defence pacts are put together. In the various meetings is going to be Philip Hammond, Boris Johnson, Michael Fallon, Amber Rudd, Greg Clark, that's Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, David Davis, of course, for exiting the European Union, Mike Penning, Minister for the Armed Forces, Damien Hines, Minister for Employment, and there's several Polish ministers taking part in this as well. So they're going to be talking all about Brexit and all about how we've got to continue to look after our Polish inhabitants. That's fine. But key part of this is military union. And this is really the key point, because Theresa May had this to say: "I am determined that Brexit will not weaken our relationship with Poland. Rather, it will serve as a catalyst to strengthen it." And this is the key point here, Brian, I think, because that's exactly what's going on. This whole psychological operation over Brexit is being used to reorganize relationships between states, if you want to put it that way, but it's being done in a particularly underhand way. So we've got military union on one hand, we've got trade deals going because TPP and TTIP haven't succeeded. So we're leading these smaller trade deals, which are going to bring us to exactly the same place. Military union is bringing us to somewhere we're at already, but it's all being done under the sort of veneer of Brexit. It's all rubbish.
It's quite incredible, isn't it? And nobody is picking up on the scale of this. I mean, David Ellis has pushed and pushed that we're just marching into military union. That's continuing at a pace by the day. We've still got senior people in London who just do not seem to be able to grasp the reality of that. But I wonder on the Polish as a nation, Mike, why should they trust the British based on probably the Second World War? I'm amazed that people are so trusting as we see British politicians announcing solidarity plans.
Indeed, and it's interesting you mention that because Theresa said, "Our ties with Poland are rooted deeply in our shared history. We will never forget the Polish pilots who braved the skies alongside us during World War II." Well, we forgot them for quite a long time.
Well, and of course, Poland was utterly betrayed because we promised to protect Poland at the beginning of the war.
And we didn't.
We didn't protect them at the end of the war either.
No, indeed. So why the Polish are so keen to get into bed with Britain, I have no idea. Because we're a bit duplicitous in our history. But anyway, this is part of the soft power that we're projecting everywhere in the world, and nowhere more so than India. And this is Dominic Asquith, who I believe is the great-grandson of the Prime Minister of the same name. He was giving a number of speeches yesterday or over the weekend in India. The Commonwealth is encouraging the mainstream into member state. Encourages the mainstreaming into member state policies of women's leadership, gender equality, and empowerment of women. The promotion of women in STEM is central to achieving this. STEM, of course, is all about mathematics and engineering. Let's see, what is it? Science, technology, engineering, medicine, and mathematics. So it all sounds very good. But of course, what's he talking about? He's talking about 600 scholarships of both in the UK. So Indians coming to the UK, both undergraduate and graduate, 500,000 foreign students in the UK's universities and so on. There's no cap on visas for students. 198 great scholarships. Well, this is a program run by the British Council, in fact. So this is a projection of soft power into India. And of course, right at the heart of this, as we mentioned before, are Chevening. And Chevening, of course, you don't have to go too far. In the Chevening website, this is supposedly providing future leaders for the UK, or for the world rather, through the UK. And of course, right in the middle of it is common purpose. So this is what we're looking at, really, the projection of soft power, the common purpose on a global basis.
Isn't it incredible, Mike, that we've got India with a history of thousands of years compared to Britain, but it's taking British MPs to go in to tell Indians what they should be doing with their culture and how to run the country.
Absolutely.
So we have no heavy industry left. We don't shipbuild. We don't build cars. We can't produce our own steel. But British MPs are telling India how it should run itself as a country.
Well, I'm sure he's a Privy Councillor, but he's not an MP. Of course, he's a High Commissioner.
Well, High Commissioner,
much more important. Isn't
okay,
it?
we'll say British establishment.
Absolutely,
yes, to be correct.
But this again, there's always a key quote in these things. UK companies are projected to need 1.82 million additional people with engineering skills by 2022. So we're going to India for those people, Brian. We're not training them in Britain.
No.
We're not training them in Britain. We're going to India for that. And of course, this again puts a lie on the whole Brexit scenario, because we are not going to take control of borders in any way, shape, or form.
Well, UK is being dismantled, Mike. This is becoming ever clearer. The country is simply being taken apart. Doesn't matter whether you look at education or industry or the NHS. Everything is in a state of collapse, and that's accelerating. So the policy of these elitist people, we'll mention that again a little bit later, is to dismantle the country, and whatever the voting public think, they don't care.
Indeed. Now, a few weeks ago we mentioned Priti Patel in Afghanistan, and we were talking about how the UK is projecting soft power there as well, and we're going to save lives and prevent immediate humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. And in the long term, they're going to help build a stable, secure and prosperous Afghanistan. That's what we're going to do, apparently. Boris Johnson is there following up on that. And he has this to say: Afghanistan is an amazing country, and I'm incredibly proud of the work that the UK is doing here in Afghanistan to challenge extremism and terrorism, promote democracy and human rights, and support the Afghan government's reform plans. And let's just remind ourselves once again of the excellent results from British interference in Afghanistan. Poppy production up 10% since last year. Eradication down 91% since last year. And the key point here is average yield up 30% since last year. If British industry could produce a productivity increase in 1 year like that, we would be absolutely,
we would be doing
home
well.
free. We would be doing well.
Excuse me.
British government absolutely delighted by this. And let's not forget what the Afghani opium farmers say. Opium is money. Why should we waste time growing wheat? So there we go. Boris in Afghanistan, making sure that the 2017 yield will be as good as the 2016 one was.
Well, I'm sure if Boris Johnson's got involved, Afghanistan is going to move, up the ladder of progress very quickly indeed.
Yes.
I almost don't know what to say again, and we're only, whatever it is, 9 minutes into the news today. It's fantasy land, but so obvious to see.
Okay, Monday night, Ian Crane will be here tonight. This is the second last week he'll be here, so do join us tonight. Humanity versus Insanity. He's going to be looking at the Investigatory Powers Act, which was passed on the 17th of November, as he describes it, legalizing, we'll put that in inverted commas, a whole range of tools for snooping and hacking by the security services and multiple other government agencies, including the Food Standards Agency, unmatched by any other country in Western Europe or the USA or even Stasi Germany or Soviet Russia. So he'll be talking about that beginning at 7:30 tonight. And then episode 99 of Fracking Nightmare is at 9 o'clock. And he's saying that newly released government emails prove that publication of the redacted DEFRA report was deliberately delayed until after Lancashire County Council had ruled on Quadrilla's application to drill and frack 2 exploratory wells near Blackpool. So he'll be talking about that, and he'll be joined by Kirby Misperton resident Sue Goff to discuss the ongoing lies and deceits of MPs, the government, and the fracking industry. So we'll talk about that at 9 o'clock.
So episode 99, 100 coming up. This is quite a milestone, Mike, and I think obviously lots of credit to Ian Crane, who's put a huge amount of time into producing these programmes, and your good self, of course, putting them out. But I think there needs to be some recognition of all the work that Ian Crane has done in order to take fracking from, I would say, a little-known subject in UK to bring it right into the heart of mainstream and other media. So have a think about that, and perhaps you might consider making a donation to Ian Crane, because Ian has spent a considerable amount of his own money in progressing what he's doing. He still needs to travel, he needs accommodation, he needs to keep his vehicle on the road, and I'm quite sure that any donations coming in for him would be very gratefully received.
Right, now, fake news. I want to highlight this article from Patrick Henningsen over the weekend. Washington Post sloppy journalism blames Russia for fake news crisis and Trump's win while pushing neo-McCarthyism. And what he's saying is the mainstream media's post-election hysteria has taken on a new level of crazy. It seems that the Washington Post has gone off the deep end this week, claiming that Russia is behind the fake news crisis, which they claim helped propel an insurgent Donald Trump to victory on November the 8th. And they're still standing by the official conspiracy theory that Russia has somehow hacked into the US elections. Everything that's wrong with the establishment media is contained within this incredible story. The hacking claim is nothing new. Backed by the White House and trumpeted by Hillary Clinton, the US mainstream media has claimed that Russia has been hacking and manipulating our US elections. The only problem is it never happened. What's more disturbing, though, is the complete collapse in journalistic standards that at what used to be considered America's paper of record. It seems that the Post is playing a key role in waging a new McCarthy-style witch hunt, targeting any independent websites which dare to challenge the prevailing anti-Russian party line, dominating the mainstream political and media establishment. So, what is the article that he's describing? Well, it's this one: Russian propaganda effort helped spread fake news during election, experts say. And this is written by somebody called Craig Tinberg, they say. Well, what are they saying? Well, they highlight, first of all, one of the sites that's producing the lists of fake news websites. It's a website called Prop or Not. Prop or Not, of course, includes on their list of well over 100 websites Paul Craig Roberts, Zero Hedge, Naked Capitalism, Op-Ed News, Consortium News, as well as Drudge, Alex Jones, various websites, and a whole bunch of other people. Well, the people that are running this website prefer to remain anonymous, Brian, and that's really says it all as far as I'm concerned. So Tinberg interviewed the executive director of Prop or Not, gave him anonymity because apparently the executive director is afraid that he'd be attacked on the internet if his name became known. Okay. So who are these people? Is it the CIA? Is it the FBI? Is it some other three-letter acronym? Well, of course, we can never find out because we can never know who they are. They're too scared to stick their heads above the parapet.
Yep, too scared. But my goodness, they must have been desperate in America if everything's now got to be blamed on the Russians. So for years we didn't hear about Russia. They disappeared. Of course, the BBC, the Great Lie, the wall came down. The Russians simply disappeared. The whole thing collapsed, and we were told not to worry. The European Union was going to protect Europe. There was nothing to worry about. We dismantled all of our military. And now all of a sudden, despite billions of pounds, GCHQ, MI5, MI6, CIA, who else have we got? NSA. Everybody's surprised. And apparently Russia is the cause of everything evil.
Apparently so. Right. Well, Syria then. So the news in Syria is relatively good, although perhaps I'm not allowed to say that because that might be Russian propaganda. But anyway, the Russian troops taking large part of eastern Aleppo, apparently dividing eastern Aleppo in two. And although this is an Associated Press article that I've got up here, Syrian troops capture major Aleppo zone. Russia's defense ministry, they say, said that areas captured by the Syrian government include 10 neighborhoods and over 3,000 buildings. They're saying in a statement that more than 100 rebels have laid down their arms and exited the eastern suburbs. Of course, the BBC and other British press highlighting the fact that thousands of civilians are leaving and still pushing the idea that civilians are the main victims here. But of course, they have been victims for all the time that they've been living under the, well, how do we describe it? Under the auspices of these terrorists. But the other thing that I wanted to highlight was the number of websites covering this young girl, Bana, who has a Twitter page. She's 7 years old and she's tweeting out everything that's going on, apparently, to her in eastern Aleppo. So here we go. Young girl takes to Twitter to depict life in Aleppo. She got a bit of fame recently because she sent a tweet to J.K. Rowling, and J.K. Rowling apparently sent her an ebook of the Harry Potter books so that she could read.
Just the sort of thing that a young girl in Aleppo would need, a bit of witchcraft.
Right. And so here we go. Can't be alive anymore. Syrian girl tweets goodbye before airstrikes destroy her home. And Sky News, Syrian girl Bana tweets can't be alive anymore in Aleppo onslaught. And we've got a picture, a dusty picture of her there. And as many people have commented, it's amazing how the first thing that people think of as the bombs are striking your home is to get straight onto Twitter. But there you go. So I'm afraid we're labeling this fake news because this is a fake news story. It is a piece of blatant propaganda. And if you look at her Twitter page, it says it admits in the byline that, of course, the Twitter site is being run by her mother. But so who is actually running it, in fact?
I don't know, but we haven't had any messages here from J.K. Rowling, have we?
No.
No. Okay, well, if that's what's happening in Syria, let's just cast our minds back to this man, William Hague, and what was he doing just a little while ago, 2013. He was busy saying, well, we don't really want to talk about the Iraq war, and it's better that we actually sort of just forget what took place. And surprisingly for a Tory, what he seemed to be doing was his very best to protect Tony Blair. Well, why have we brought this back into the limelight? Because bringing Alex Salmond, this is from a really good article in Russia Today. And what's Mr. Salmond had to say? Well, he says that really Blair should not be allowed to get away with things. And so he says an example should be set, not just of improving government, but holding people to account. So his former SNP leader, Alex Salmond, and he says that, yep, people in prominent positions, public service, they should definitely be held to account. Well, of course, we would like to remind people that it was the very same Alex Salmond who misled the public over documents which were critical to obtaining justice in the Holly Gregg abuse case. So rank hypocrisy from this man, but we're unsure as to why he thinks he's entitled to have a go at Blair. Let's just have a look at what he was doing. This was reported in July 2011 by the Firm. First Minister in missing records riddle over Holly Gregg abuse allegations. Well, there wasn't any riddle because the information was printed out in the article itself. The Scottish Government is refusing to disclose whether it's lost or destroyed communication records relating to the Holly Gregg case, which may indicate when the First Minister Alex Salmond became aware of allegations of sexual abuse. Last month, the Scottish ministers were compelled by the Information Commissioner to address a series of questions put to the First Minister in correspondence in relation to the case in January this year. The first of which was, when did you first become aware of the allegations made by Holly Gregg about her being abused by members of a high-ranking paedophile ring in Scotland. And the article goes on, it says later, however, the firm has seen correspondence from the Crown Office dated the 23rd of July 2009, addressed to the Gregg family's lay representative Robert Green, which suggests that correspondence addressed to the First Minister outlining the allegations was received over 2 years ago. So when it comes to the serious matter of child abuse, and Alex Salmond is quite prepared not to tell the truth or at least mislead the public, but he's the man to point the finger at Tony Blair. They're all as bad. But we'll just bring this up on the screen. We're not normally big fans of petitions because the petition is a begging exercise in reality. However, a number of people have said this is a petition worth signing because it can put pressure on both on Tony Blair and the government. So on that basis, we're going to recommend it. And of course, at the moment, it's got 20,000 of the necessary 100,000 signatures. So if you feel emotive about Tony Blair, perhaps you'd like to consider signing that petition. And we'd also like to ask why Blair should remain in government as a Privy Councillor. So, of course, most people think that Blair has stepped away from mainstream politics, but in fact, this man is still unbelievably powerful behind the closed doors of the Privy Council, where he's helping to run the country as if nothing had actually happened. Well, this, of course, leads us nicely into how government works, and that is by blackmail around child abuse. And we'd like to point out that Melanie Shaw has now spent close on 7 months in solitary confinement in Foxton Hall prison in Derby. The UN calls solitary confinement torture, so this is torture by the British state. At the moment, Melanie is still unsure of what her crime is. She simply does not know what she's actually charged with. She does not know why she has spent this length of time in prison. And we have had rumours that there was to be a bail application at the end of this month, but it appears that this is there's no real substance to it. So this is the reality of Britain. There is no child abuse, particularly when you put the whistleblowers in prison in solitary to make sure that their accusations can't reach the public.
Just before you go on, would it be unfair to say that it would be nice if people would perhaps campaign to try to get this woman out of prison before Christmas?
Well, indeed. I think something needs to be done because this is potentially here for all of us. What we're actually seeing is that if you challenge the government, if you start to really open up what is going on in Westminster, the criminality, the drugs, the child trafficking, the abuse, any one of us could be put into prison with no proper judicial process. So what do people need to do? I think it's time for a mass movement of support for Melanie. I agree, Mike.
Now, at one point in her past, Melanie Shaw was working for Chris Leslie MP. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So perhaps he would be a good person to start asking questions because surely he must have some, surely he's got some duty of care under those circumstances. Well,
he's met Melanie on several occasions. There's a photograph of Melanie with him when he visited her in her house and, of course, promised to help and support her. But like all the MPs, he was either confused or something was going on because he's done none of that. But certainly that man would be a prime individual to write to, ring, email. Perhaps he might suffer as much as Melanie when the pressure was put on. Well, let's bring in the Mail because the Daily Mail, of course, is going flat out to make sure that any information, accusations around sexual abuse, Westminster, is put to bed as quickly as possible. This was the Mail on Sunday. Heath accuser is a satanic sex fantasist. And we've labelled this That Nice Man, Ted Heath, as you'll see in a minute. There's a lovely picture of him. What a nice, upstanding man. And we just like to remind people, of course, that what happened to the Haute de la Garenne abuse investigation Well, of course, that investigation was shut down. Why was it shut down? Because it began to link back into individuals such as Ted Heath, of particular interest with Ted Heath because of the link with yachting in that area. So how do you get rid of the real story? Well, you start to bury it by drifting in other stories. So there's no abuse amongst politicians. That's simply not true. It's all hysteria. The real bad guys are the footballers. So we've got a massive double-page spread that these nasty clubs have been abusing boys. It's all been covered up. And here's take your eye off the politicians and focus on the celebrity style. So this was the main article in the paper, a satanic injustice. And the whole thing hinges on the fact that the police have been supposedly investigating Ted Heath under Operation Conifer. This also had links to Operation Midland around the London Westminster abuse rings. But two witnesses, Nick and also a girl called Lucy, and there's no substance in it at all. There's just no substance. Now, where's this article come from? Well, it's come from a Dr. Rachel Hoskins. She says, well, I'm a best-selling author, I'm a criminologist, and I'm a ritual abuse expert. She claims to have been working with the police for 15 years. Although she says in the article that this was confidential work for the police, she says she's so shocked that people should make these ridiculous allegations about Ted Heath that she's had to produce this written article. So this would seem to be a professional, Mike, working for the police for some 15 years, who now simply breaches all the confidentiality rules with the police to produce a big double-page spread in the Daily Mail. There is something inherently wrong with this whole thing.
We call this fake news?
I would say this is fake news. And how can we dig into it a bit further? Well, remarkably, if you go researching this lady who says she's a criminologist, she's been working with the police for 15 years, you can't actually find any information on her. All that comes up is yet more of the same story. So here we've got the Telegraph's Edward Heath sex investigation could be shut down as police expert says satanic ritual abuse claims are pernicious fabrication. We go on to a smaller site. Criminologist hits out at continued probe into abuse claims. And even the Shropshire Star here, Sir Edward Heath, child abuse based on pernicious claims, whistleblower says. So she's a criminologist, author, satanic ritual abuse expert, and now whistleblower. But if you read the main statement, she says that I believe that without the witnesses' psychotherapists, there would have been no evidence. So in her statement, there's nothing factual at all to prove that there's no substance in the claims being made.
No, in this post-truth world, she's merely giving a belief.
She's merely giving a belief. She's breaching a signed confidentiality document with the police. And she's saying, in my opinion, there's nothing here. And this is now put all over the Daily Mail, well, and other sites. And I'll just say that in the article itself, it says that her analysis, which says there's nothing here, took 2 months and led to a 40,000-word report. But I soon had profound anxieties. So there's no substance, but she still took 2 months and 40,000 words and pick a figure, £20,000? How much was she paid to actually produce the police report? How much was she paid to produce the Daily Mail report? Well, we don't know. So add a bit more to this, and we come into this one here. We've got, this is part of the Daily Mail report, and this lady is saying a special investigation in 1990 by this newspaper, the Mail on Sunday, tore into the book Michelle Remembers. Mail on Sunday journalists travelled to Canada to expose the authors and their claims, but by then it was too late. The satanic ritual abuse scare was in full fling. So here we are in 1990, no expense spared by the Mail to go and undermine this book, which was about somebody saying we were abused, and it included satanic ritual abuse. We can send people to Canada, we can pay airfares. But if we come back to UK in 2016, the Daily Mail can't do any investigation at all. Melanie Shaw in prison in solitary confinement for 7 months. Daily Mail, not interested at all. It's all a little bit obvious. So what was their editorial? Well, that was pretty easy. Child abuse in Westminster. It's all just hysteria. Absolutely nothing to see. And of course, the Daily Mail said there was nothing to see when Duke of York was busy hobnobbing with Epstein, who's already been convicted of paedophile activity, but there was nothing there. There was young girls, but nothing happened. And of course, all of that was swept up under the carpet. And we better bring in Jimmy Savile. We tried to show in this diagram from some time ago that despite all these people who are there to protect us, nobody knew. So the Queen's bodyguards didn't know, Charles' bodyguards didn't know, the Metropolitan Police, the security services, nobody knew, Mike. Well, let's remind ourselves, we also had Sky saying that there was a file which came out of the public archives, which was openly saying that senior members of government were very interested in boys, but nothing to see. And then, of course, we better bring in this gentleman, former Prime Minister, who says, no, nothing to see at all. So the picture, I think, is building quite nicely. We are not only seeing this huge push to take the public eye off Westminster, we're taking the public eye off Brexit as well. What's going on in the background? Are all these people being blackmailed? Fiona Woolf, well, she didn't lead anything. Big friend of David Cameron, smiling. We've got the present Prime Minister, still no child abuse inquiry. And perhaps we'll just drop this one in because, of course, it was Tony Blair in 2000 who said he had a vision of a new Britain. Central to the vision is the creation of a new class, a new elite, placed in positions of authority who will propagate the new spirit of the age and spread the principles of the third way across Britain. So here they are, the new class, which we're seeing with great ease, above the law.
Totally above the law.
Drugs in Afghanistan, arms deals, money, corruption, child trafficking, abuse. And we've got, of course, leader of the Lib Dems, Tim Farron, who simply says, well, 300 Syrian children have gone missing in UK, but we're not really interested in that. Yes, there will have been trafficked, abused, murdered, but I'm not really interested because flooding is my priority.
Well,
what else do we say?
Brian, if the security services didn't know in the past, they're bound to know in the future because we're setting up a school for teenage code breakers. And that's going to be set up at Bletchley Park. So this is great news. This is going to be a sixth form college. The Sixth Form College of National Security is what it's going to be called. And it's going to teach cyber skills to our most gifted, according to the Guardian, our most gifted youngsters. Well, they're going to take a derelict building in Bletchley Park. They're going to refurbish it with £50 million of money. Well, they're going to, well, what are they going to do? It's a very good question. Cyber threat is the real threat facing the UK, apparently. The problem it's causing the UK government companies is growing exponentially, and that's according to the chairman of Crofaro, which is the company behind this. This is apparently a non-profit organisation. Bletchley Park Crofaro Limited,
right,
is who's
social enterprise, is it?
It's or certainly a non-profit. That is what they claim. Who's involved with it? well, we've got British Telecom, National Museum of Computing, the the Institute of Information Security, Cambridge Analytica Limited, and a bunch of other people involved in this. So through initiatives such as the National College, we can effectively combine the principles of heritage, education, and innovation for which everything on the site stands. Previous generations are deeply proud of their contributions at Bletchley Park. I'm keen to see that the next cadre will achieve, is what they're saying. What happens to young people when they go into a situation like this? They're going to be sleeping on site apparently. And it's going to be a full-time thing for them for a couple of years. And then what happens? Do they go into GCHQ or do they go into the private sector?
Well, they're obviously specially streamed, so they're going to get full attention. Mike, I would say they're going to be heavily reframed. That's the first thing that's going to happen to them. So they're going to believe the video game and all the rest of the nonsense that they're told. But are we going to see the privatisation of GCHQ? I think that's inevitable, yes. Absolutely inevitable. So it'll be some parts of it will be outsourced, and then this will be creeping privatisation, just like has been done with the NHS.
Well, and in fact, if you look at the civil service and the NHS as perfect examples, they don't just go straight to privatisation. As you say, they either outsource, but another way to do it is to create community interest companies, cooperatives. Yeah. They've got a number of sort of interim steps that they choose, and I believe this is one of those interim steps.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So we say at the moment it's getting increasingly easy to see what's going on in UK. We've simply got a Westminster which is hostile to the country. The aim is to destroy Britain as a nation state. We are to be simply subsumed into the European Union. And of course, it was UK column that pushed Brexit as an EU psyop. There never was any Brexit. And the speed at which the military alliance is moving, Mike, means that by early next year, there will not be a chance of extracting Britain from the European Union, because Theresa May is locking us into every possible angle of that EU military. And of course, we can already see the EU Treasury coming up in the wings.
And that, of course, is why we can't invoke Brexit, she says, until March, because they've got other agenda items to meet before Brexit gets invoked.
Indeed.
Just before we go, just to remind everybody, it was Chris Leslie MP was the MP that we were talking about.
Melanie Shaw was dealing with. Chris Leslie. Yeah. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be back at the same time tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.